Communication between genders affects our daily lives, yet we rarely think about it. If there are biological differences between genders, does this mean we are wired to communicate differently also? If so, is this because of nature or nurture? And finally, what are the implications concerning interactions? These are the questions that we will explore in this presentation. So let's start with the science.
Men and women are very different in the way they communicate. This could be due to the differences in their brain wiring. A study by Israeli researchers found distinct differences in the developing fetus when examined male and female brains at 26 weeks of pregnancy. The corpus callosum, the bridge of the nerve tissue that connects the right and left sides of the brain, had a thicker measurement in the female fetuses. Researchers also found that the frontal area of the cortex and the temporal area of the cortex are more precisely organized in women and are bigger in volume. Professor Geary, PhD of Psychological Sciences at the University of Missouri. In a brain scanning technique that measured the flow of water along a nerve pathway, created a neural map of the brain called the connectome. Professor Verma of Radiology at the University of Pennsylvania found in women that most of the connections go between the left and the right hemispheres, while in men, most of the connections go between the front and the back of the brain. In a study that measured brain development in more than 500 children, researchers concluded that when it comes to math, the brain of a 12-year-old girl resembles that of an 8-year-old boy, and found that in areas of the brain involved in language and handwriting mature about 6 years earlier in girls than in boys. This difference may explain a lasting functional advantage that females seem to have over males, dominant language skills. While the brain allows us to think, it also drives our emotions. Studies shown that women are faster and more accurate at identifying emotions, facial differences, and determining the changing of vocal intonations, says Ruben Gurr, PhD, a neurologist at the University of Pennsylvania. Now, brain differences may lead us to believe that men and women have little in common upstairs, but that's not the case. Men and women do have lots of brain areas that are the same. Moreover, members of both sexes excel at skills that are commonly labeled gender-specific.
Gender differences in the workplace typically stem from social factors, which influence the behaviors of men and women. According to linguistics professor Deborah Tannen, women value communication, connection, and relationship, and talk as a way to relate to others, while men value independence, power, and accomplishments, and talk to inform others. We need to create harmony between the gender communication differences so there can be a more positive workplace atmosphere. The difference between men and women giving orders are women soften their demands and statements. Men are more direct. Women use phrases like, "Don't you think? If you don't mind. This may be a crazy idea, but..." Women are conditioned by culture to maintain harmony in relationships. That conditioning is manifested in softened demands, hedged statements, and a generally more tentative communication style. Tentative communication does not mean the speaker lacks confidence. Similarly, more direct communication, as seen with most men and some women, does not mean the person is arrogant, bossy, or feels superior. Women generally ask more questions than men, and this can create confusion in the workplace. Men ask questions to gather information. Women ask questions to gather information and to show interest in what the other person has said to cultivate the relationship. Female employees might feel that her male manager is not interested in her ideas when he doesn't say anything and looks serious. He actually remains neutral to show that he is listening. She might think he doesn't understand or repeats what she says from time to time. Thus, the male manager will see it as uncertainty and lack of confidence. There is nothing wrong with different communication styles. The problem arises when these differences lead to misunderstandings which can disrupt teamwork and chances for upward mobility. Women need to learn how to get to the point quickly and briefly. Men must understand when women tell a story, they are building common ground with them. Women should observe and listen rather than process out loud. Men understand that processing is a way for women to include others and build relationships. Women offer help and advice as a sign of caring, while men usually don't like to ask for help in the workplace. To them, it reflects an inability to achieve their own merit. Women understand that offering help may be inferred as a lack of trust in another's ability. Don't be so quick to offer advice. Men, ask what you can do to help. It may be an opportunity to show support.
Romantic relationships are an important area in which communication takes place. 42% of marriages in the UK end in divorce and 53% end in the United States. Miscommunication between the sexes could be a major factor in rising divorce. The three major differences in male-female communication are motive, style, and nonverbal communication. Motive. Deborah Tannen, a linguistics professor at Georgetown University, has found that men and women have different goals in communication. Men desire information while staying independent, whereas women desire intimacy. Likewise, women use conversation to build relationships while men use it to solve the problems at hand. Style. According to PhD marriage therapist John Gray, the communication style between men and women differs greatly. In personal conversations, women tend to use more words and express more feelings, while it is the opposite with men. Women usually offer advice in a sensitive manner, while men tend to be blunt. Women often change topics in the middle of a conversation, while men like to finish one topic at a time. Nonverbal communication. According to PhD speech pathologist Lillian Glass, researchers have found that women use body language more than men. This includes more vocal tones, facial expressions, and eye contact. If misunderstood, these differences can play a part in divorce. A study conducted by the University of Denver found that men tend to withdraw in a conflict more often than women, and it's viewed as a negative interaction. The study also found that how a couple argues is more likely to increase divorce potential rather than what they argue about. With all that in mind, here are 3 tips for better communication. 1. Women, state from the top of the conversation that you don't want your problem solved. Likewise, men should state that they need to talk about something in an uninterrupted manner. Both parties need to respect the other gender's needs. 2. Women, allow your partner some alone time to sort out conflicts before initiating conversation. Men, remember that women desire intimacy and give her the nurturing she needs. 3. In conversation, be aware of gender differences in communication. This will increase your understanding and decrease conflict. Clearly, there are differences in the way men and women interact with each other, due to both nature and nurture. It's important to be honest about gender differences in order to make our lives easier in the workplace and in relationships. We must use this knowledge not to create a divide between genders, but to increase understanding between them.